Joseph Ignatius Gilbert was a 21-year-old shorthand reporter when the Associated Press sent him to Gettysburg for the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery, a newly designed burial ground for the Federal dead who had fallen there in July. Having covered Lincoln as president-elect in 1861, Gilbert was familiar with his high-pitched voice. This was surely an advantage on November 19, 1863, when the president rose to speak. In 9 sentences, he restated the Declaration's ideal of human equality, summoned the living to their unfinished task of being one nation, and promised a new birth of freedom, the legacy of the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here. John Nicolay, the president's secretary, later recalled that Lincoln consulted the published AP text when making his final copies of the Gettysburg Address in Washington. This suggests that Lincoln spoke from memory and had to remind himself of what he had said. Gilbert's published recollections reveal why the president favored the AP version. Lincoln had allowed Gilbert to copy his manuscript after he had spoken. Here is Gilbert with this stunning revelation. Before the dedication ceremonies closed, the president's manuscript was copied with his permission, and as the press report was made from the copy, no transcription from shorthand notes was necessary. If Gilbert telegraphed his copy of the president's manuscript, the AP report should be very close to Lincoln's second draft, which some believe to be the delivery text, written on the morning of November 19th at the home of Lincoln's Gettysburg host, David Wills. Let's compare the second draft with the AP version in the Brooklyn Daily Eagle to find out how close they really are. In the second draft, the handwriting seems hurried. Lincoln has inserted the word poor, as in poor power to add or detract. Poor also occurs in the first draft and in 3 later drafts, but it does not occur in Gilbert's text or in the text of Charles Hale, another shorthand reporter. Does the fact that poor is not in the text of 2 stenographers who mostly agree, and only occasionally occurs in the newspapers, indicate that Lincoln did not say it? Possibly, but it seems more likely that he said poor and that some reporters missed it. Just the reverse seems to have happened with the phrase under God, as in, this nation shall, under God, have a new birth of freedom. While it does not appear in the first 2 drafts, it does appear in the later Washington drafts and in the AP and the Hale versions, and other newspaper accounts. Lincoln probably inserted under God while speaking, supporting the argument that its absence from the second draft places its composition in Gettysburg, not later. Scholars reason that if this draft had been a final copy, the president would not have failed to include those words. Summing up, Gilbert's text is very close to the second draft. In spite of its few variations, due to telegraph, editorial, or typesetting errors, the AP account captures what Lincoln said. This argues that the second draft is likely the delivery text and that it was likely composed at Gettysburg, not later. Lincoln benefited by consulting the AP version in making his final copies, as he could improve or retain wording guided by a version he trusted. And although neither his shorthand notes nor his copy of Lincoln's delivery text survive, Joseph Gilbert may have bequeathed something equally valuable. Fascinated by Lincoln's intense earnestness and depth of feeling, I unconsciously stopped taking notes and looked up at him. Had Gilbert not been so moved, he may not have noticed how Lincoln voiced his closing words, with an emphasis on people. That the nation shall, under God, have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Of those who listened, at least one actually heard.